He said this on two different shows. Here is Andrew Siciliano, play-by-play voice of your Cleveland Browns, on one name that not a lot of shows have brought up other than when Andrew's been on.
I only have one guy in mind if they're going to hire a defensive coach. I love Jesse Minter. It isn't Jesse Minter. He plays an entire system. I mean, Jesse Minter is all about is what Mike McDonald plays in Seattle. Very effective system, but they're not going to go single high and pin your earbacks with an attack front that just go after the quarterback. That's not what they do.
Right.
So I don't know that Jesse Minter and Jim Schwartz actually overlap well. If you want to hire a defensive coordinator and a young one, go get Matt Burke of the Houston Texans. They run the same system. Matt Burke actually was an assistant in Philadelphia under Jim Schwartz. He was his linebackers coach there. He's a bright guy, Dartmouth guy. You want to talk about Ivy League? Matt Burke checks every box, and everybody that's ever been with Matt Burke loves him. He's got the number one defense in football. People say, oh, Aaron Rodgers has never seen this defense before. Nonsense. He saw it a couple of weeks ago at Huntington Bank Field. It's the same defense.
Yeah.
And his two worst games of the year were against Jim Schwartz and the Browns and Matt Burke and the Texans. Now, I don't know their personal relationship, but if you want a fiery defensive head coach, or assistant rather, to be your head coach, it makes all the sense in the world to go get the guy that's worked with Jim Schwartz and that other teams want to talk to as well.
Now, this is two separate shows that he said this on, not just on The Fan, by the way. That's two times that he has mentioned Matt Burke. Andrew Siciliano has. Now, I don't know if Andrew knows anything or anything like that. I mean, it would go to stand that he knows some things. I mean, he is the play-by-play voice of the Browns. Let's call it what it is. And Andrew knows football. Andrew and knows the movers and shakers. He's been doing this a long time. Got a lot of respect for Andrew Siciliano. When he mentions Matt Burke, I like what he says about Matt Burke. There's a lot of things there to say that you like. Now, I think that some people are going to wince because he's not an offensive guy. I think a lot of people want an offensive guy. Also, when we talk about the systems that they run, a good coach is a good coach. I don't want to be just so beholden to a system. I think that when this station first started, there was a lot of things about guys running their systems and what type of guys that they have. But if you want to have a seamless transition and maybe a guy that Jim Schwartz will still work for, maybe Matt Burke is that guy, Tone. I don't know how. I just don't know how important system is to me. I'm sorry, if I had a head coaching candidate, like I'll use Matt Burke as the example. If Burke comes in and you were to say, all right, what are you going to do with all these guys? And he goes, well, I got to get rid of some of these guys. They're not ready. It was like, well, I just traded for Tyson Campbell to be in this system. So you can't work with this system? Like, well, I'm not just going to try. It's one thing to get talent. I got to put talent in the best place possible. So I can't just change for you.
Yeah, and I said...
I can't do it. I don't think Buddy Ryan would do it.
I said I'd be open to just about anything because I understood the Browns' job is not considered at the top of the hierarchy for all these jobs. I think there's 8 open now after Harbaugh takes that. Yeah. So we all got to be open-minded, and I'm doing my best. I think old Lima, Kenny, would have been railing on all these no-namers, and now I'm like, well...
I think that's the whole cycle is a bunch of no-namers,
yeah,
guys. Like,
and some of these guys are going to end up being good. Like, they're not all going to be bad. We're not going to all be here a year from now or 2 years from now, and all the same teams are going to be looking for new head coaches.
There's no guy. Well, I'm going to get back to this conversation in a second. There's no stars. There's no stars. I mentioned to you on the phone, I don't know about, I can't listen to all 5 hours of the afternoon drive, and I can't listen to all 4 hours of Baskin and Phelps and 4 hours of Jake Volnick, right? Has Deion Sanders been brought up on any of those shows? Because he hasn't been brought up on this show at all. At all. It's never happened. Not by a caller, not by us.
I think if they would have had a good year in Boulder,
but
that would have been the case.
Kurt Signetti has been said in passing is kind of like, but nobody is taking that seriously.
Nobody thinks he would leave.
John Harbaugh was the only star. He made his decision rather quickly, and I agree with what Jonathan said yesterday. Is where, okay, now we can get back to reality here and get moving on. There's no stars. There are no stars. No slam dunk guys. Mike Tomlin didn't come in here. Mike McDaniels, I think he's a pretty fun personality, but he is not a star. So now we have to go to these quote unquote no-namers. This is what it is. So there's been years where you remember Chip Kelly. He basically got wined and dined and wanted some free dinner and then didn't come here. That was a rough day. A rough day to be told how bad your job is by a guy who was that coveted on this football team. The Joe Banner wanting to go after Jim Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh not giving you the time of day. Kyle Shanahan and the PowerPoint presentation and get out of here as an offensive coordinator. Like those are old memories that hurt. These are guys that, hey, like this job isn't the best job. I've argued with you about that. Or this job isn't top 3, but this job does have its perks. Money is one of them. I think that defense is another one of them. I think eventually we'll be able to get out from some of the other ones. And I don't think that they really want to move on from anybody very quickly. And they proved that with Kevin over 6 years. So as long as you're not a personal disaster and you can't organize anything, like it's not going to be Freddie.
Well, so there's essentially 2 camps here. If we're talking about, a defensive guy, it's well, why would we want to mess with Jim Schwartz? Jim Schwartz has been the architect of over the last 2 years, one of the best defenses in the entire league, and they've been also authoring up like the most dominating defensive games. Like we're talking about numbers. He's had just some of the craziest dominant games in the NFL. Like teams put together drives, not against the Browns. Like some of these teams, these games were over. Remember that Raiders game, Cincinnati early on. Obviously, what you saw at the end of the year, the last 2 games, where I thought those wins were the defense. They were more than anything else. They were the dominant defense that gave you those wins, despite how bad the offense was during most of those games. So why would you want to mess with that? The other camp is, couldn't anybody be a defensive coordinator with Myles Garrett running the show? And with Denzel Ward in the secondary?
Joe Woods didn't do a great job.
But don't you think Myles is a way better player than he was back then?
But how much of that has been Jim Schwartz finally freeing him up to do what he's good at?
That's the debate.
Because I think that there has been, and you remember this, and I didn't like it. There were coaches when he first came in who he was easily the number 1 pick. Let's not say things that weren't true, but there were definitely guys out there who wondered if he was more of a one-trick pony and just that much of an athletic beast that he could do things as a one-trick pony. He is anything but that now, and I think that this season, if you didn't believe that 3 years ago, this season really proved it here. So I think that, I wonder how much trust was there with some of the other defensive coordinators. Maybe Joe Woods would be like, okay, but he wasn't willing to do what he's willing to do with Jim when he was with me. I don't know that. But I think that Jim has freed him up and has made the defense have fun playing defense, clearly. And sometimes to their own detriment because there's celebrations in games that they lose. But if you're saying system or you're saying side of the ball that's important, I think it's, again, just how you – there's always going to be disagreements. These are proud men. They're strong-willed. These are football coaches, for crying out loud. But there should be no taking over of power, things like that. I think a guy like Matt Burke and hearing a little bit about him, yeah. But you know what? I'll say the same thing about Grant Udinsky. I'll say the same thing maybe about Nate Shieldhouse. I'll say the same. Like, there's so many things about these guys because there are no stars. And a lot of these guys are rather young. There's not a great big track record. And the one guy that's out there that has a track record, people aren't really excited about. That's Mike McDaniel. They're really not. Like Jim Schwartz, I know it went straight to hell after the playoffs when he was in Detroit as a head coach. People will point to that. He did take over an 0-16 team and got him to the playoffs in 2 years. It went straight to hell. But I think that for a lot of fans, that's ancient history. He did a great job with Philadelphia. He's done a great job here as the defensive coordinator. I think they'd be more open to him than Mike McDaniel. So now it's just based on, all right, which way do you want to bet? That's why I think that Udinski is such a big name, because it's going, hey, if we're not going to have any of these quote-unquote stars, and this guy can grow into the position, because there's definitely, at 30 years old, there's definitely going to be some growing pains there.
But so
maybe you
funny?
give him the job because of that.
I know there was a study that was put out by our analytics buddy, Cleve TA, about all the retread coaches that didn't do well. If they didn't do well in their first run, they almost never do well in their second run. So that's one of the reasons why, we don't have fans every day talking about, Brian Flores. We just don't. Jim Schwartz is the one retread that, had his ups and downs in Detroit, but in the end failed. Like 99% of coaches end up failing. If they get long enough leash, they end up failing and they get fired. Well, Schwartz is being brought up because we've seen him. We've seen his demeanor. There have been press conferences each and every week. Fans have gotten to know him and his tendencies more than even Stefanski, like as a leader. It is always interesting to me how fans like I joked about, we'll see the YouTube clip of a 1.5-minute either press conference or interview setting, and they're like, oh, my God, a window into the mind of this up-and-coming genius. And it's like, well, they haven't had a chance to make mistakes yet that we know of. Like, they make mistakes. I'm sure their head coach is like, I didn't like that game plan this week from you. But we don't get to see it. We don't know about it. So we think, what? Clean slate. So we are more open-minded to the guy that's never done it because we haven't seen the faults yet.
We haven't seen him fail. We haven't seen him fail yet. We haven't seen him in real time make those decisions. You know, the play calling thing. I think play calling is overrated because I think that you can only do so much with your players. I think you can get better results out of certain players, but you're not going to turn third-round quarterbacks for the most part into great quarterbacks. You're not going to do that with wide receivers as well. Sometimes they are what they are. I just listened to, this is why I got so cross with Bubba Ventrone. It's like, I don't want to hear you blaming rosters. I don't want to hear you blaming that. The Jets beat you. They got a bad back end of the roster. The Titans beat you with special teams. They got a bad back end. Like, I listen to those things. Those things are important. I want to hear organization. I want to hear about the plans and those things. Play calling is part of what you go through as an offensive guy. And I think that it is important to the fans because it's somewhere I can hold you accountable.
And by the way, Stefanski's play calling was 2020 was lauded. Oh my God, this is a fresh breath of air.
It's something I can hold you accountable for.
Teams were copying the Browns and the stuff he was doing.
With the other things that go in there, it's like, well, I'm just going to go on hearsay, and I'm not privy to the interview, so we don't really know. So there's a lot of faith that has to be taken in whoever they hire. If they don't call plays, there's a lot of faith in whoever they hire on a team that not a lot of people have faith in. Coming up at 8:20 this morning, the dangerous one, Darryl Ryder. Is this job looking better or worse as time goes on? Is it as simple as who do you want? Is it as simple for me to ask you as who do you want? There's no John Harbaugh there anymore. I don't know if you're pulling anybody else out of thin air. And anytime I mention McDaniel, Udinski, Schwartz, I'll throw Burke into the lot now, Shieldhouse, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Who and why? A lot to get to, not a lot of time. I asked Lima at 7:36 this morning. Lima, who do you want? Survey said. What name do you want right now for the Browns? Top of your head. Go.
Schwartz.
Boy, that sounded convincing. Anthony Lima had a full-throated endorsement for Jim Schwartz. Is this where we're at now?
Who was your guy?
Did you want John Harbaugh? Well, I said the most realistic is Jim Schwartz. I've warmed up to Udinski. I'm about ready to just pull the knob off this thing and let's get going.
You're off the McDaniel train.
You know what? I was never on the McDaniel train. I predict that it'll be McDaniel. But you know what? If none of them are going to be stars, okay? Do I want to say this? Yeah, hell yeah, I want to say it. If none of them are going to be stars, if none of them are stars, if John Harbaugh wasn't going to give us the time of day, if you wanted to be an offensive guy, I don't give a damn about play calling. I don't give a damn about some of these other things. You know what? Just hire Udinski then. I'm a Udinski guy now.
Wow.
Welcome to it. I thought Schwartz would be the most palatable one, the one that would come with the least. But I'm getting 50-50 on everybody. I think Udinski, I think there's some people who are very passionate about him. I think there's some people who are passionately against him because I think they got Browns memories stuck in their head. And, hey, you know what? Yeah, the Browns have got it blamed all right on themselves, so they'd have to deal with it if they were to hire Udinski. I think I might be Team Udinski right now as of 8:04 this morning. Because if they're not going to be big stars coming in, and the only guy that was out there that is a star was John Harbaugh, Marcus Freeman ain't walking through that door. Kurt Cignetti is not walking through that door. Ryan Day ain't walking through that door. We ain't talked about any of them. If there ain't any other wonderkins or great big names, then fine. Might as well go with the guy who has the highest upside, have we not? I don't want to throw another name in there because if I make the comparison, it will immediately sour some people towards Udinski. But it just seems to be this wild, high ceiling type of name that I can't stop thinking about. He's exciting. And because we don't know that much about the guy, he's exciting. Peter Schrager, ESPN, had this to say about it on his show.
They hired a 30-year-old who I believe had just called plays for the first time in his career for a Redskins team that did not have a ton of success. And they took a massive swing. And you think 9 years ago, they hired a 30-year-old with no head coaching experience at any level, who had just called one season of plays for like a mediocre offense and had just lost and didn't even make the playoffs. And they announced that as their like hire. It's one of the biggest swings in coaching hiring history. I really do think so, because look at what he's done. McVay is now considered one of the greatest coaches of all time, and I don't think anyone would argue that. Say all that, we have 8 openings. I want to know who's going to take the swing.
The next McVay is who? Now, this guy's never called plays. I don't give a damn. Because it's always the first thing you want to take away from a guy when he calls plays. I would say if you did hire Udinsky, I think you should have a play caller in here. I don't know if that's Tommy Rees. I'm not sure. I don't know if you want to make a guy head coach and go, oh, yeah, you're going to call plays as well. I care about organization. I care about the other things that are there. That really, and this is what makes it so crazy, is I can't guarantee any of it. I'd only heard his name a couple of times a couple of years ago, and then it was like, hey, in a decade, this guy's going to be something. Here we are 2 years later.
I was telling you yesterday that, do you remember, like, 2019, I know that there was a big thing called COVID, that divided us from 2019. Yeah. But 2019 was not that long ago, right? It was not that long ago. Do you know he got his first coaching job in 2019?
I understand that.
So it just puts into perspective, like, how quick this ascension is, but not so quick that he's like already gotten to call plays.
But the guys he was coaching were in high school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he's never called the plays. So that's the difference here between, I know everybody keeps bringing up Sean McVay, is that McVay had been an OC and had called plays for multiple years. I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3 years, but he had that elevated responsibility. This guy has it. He has not had that responsibility. So he hasn't had the proof of concept of leadership role and, the actual responsibility of calling the plays. So we have nothing. We have no way.
Is it because of that you don't want him?
I didn't say I didn't want him. Because I am open. I told you I'd be open to everything. We probably would have totally ripped if we were in Pittsburgh when they hired Mike Tomlin. We would have totally ripped, even the McVay hire. Certainly, we would have been like, are we sure about this? So there are plenty of guys that haven't done stuff. That's not a disqualifier, but it also is part of, the reality that he's going to make all his mistakes on the job. The benefit of Tomlin was he won instantly. McVay won instantly. So people that diffused any of the heat that they would be getting. My question is he going to get that buy-in and win instantly? Does he have the chance to do it? Schedule-wise, you would say, yes, they have one of the easiest schedules in the league next year. The buy-in and win instantly,
the buy-in from who? Who's buying in?
The players. Because obviously when McVay goes 11-5 in his first year and then 13-3 the second year, done, buy-in. Nobody's questioning him as head coach. Mike Tomlin, first year, win instantly, boom, buy-in. Nobody's questioning. But if this guy gets off to a 1-5 start,
he's got to. If he doesn't call plays, he's got to have leadership qualities. So I'd imagine he has some leadership qualities.
That's what they say that he has, yeah.
But
he's never actually had the responsibility.
Obviously, but I've told you before about leader in men. Now, it's one thing to try to be a leader in men as an assistant coach, and it's different to be as a head coach. I understand all that as well. But I would have a very brief message for any player out there that does it. Like, for veterans, like, hey, guys, this is your last chance. This is the last coach we intend to hire with Myles Garrett. So, I don't know. What are you going to do? You're going to walk around? You're going to ask for another trade now that we really can't trade you? Okay, fine. You guys going to pout over the 30-year-old? Or are you guys going to go out there and try to be professionals about it? Which one are you going to do? It's up to you. And it's going to be up to you no matter what. I can make Jim Schwartz the head coach. He can come in as a head coach and yell and scream. And if they want to sit there and complain, well, it's different now because he's the head coach. No, that's on you. It's their team. It's the player. It's always the player's team. From damn Mighty Mites to the NFL, it's the player's team. You could put them in the best position possible. It's their team. There are no demigods anymore. That day is done. That's why Brian Kelly's on his ass. He's not on his ass. He's a very wealthy man, but you get what I'm saying. So you have to be in a partnership here, and the players have to lead from within. And nobody's playing for any one triumphant head coach, one legendary name anymore. That stuff is done. Like, there's guys who are big names. Who's the next legend? Who is it? Like, Cignetti's a great story. Cignetti's the first guy to tell you, my players, it's always the players. Marcus Freeman's beloved right now at Notre Dame. They want to keep him. He's always saying players, players, players. It's a partnership. That's the way it is. Nick Saban's gone. He ain't coming back. Woody Hayes is dead. Ball Bear Bryant is dead. They're all gone. This is a different era. And so you got to be willing to, if you're a player right now, and I don't know why anybody would still be in town listening to this, but if you're Grant Delpit or somebody, I'm just using an example. I'm sure Grant would get on board, whatever. But if you're one of these players and you're going, I can't believe we're for a 30-year-old guy, then just go. Just go. Because I tell you what, I don't want, what am I going to only win 4 games this year? Am I only going to win 4 games? Oh, maybe I'm going to win 3 games this coming year. Hey, man. It's your football team. That's been the problem the entire time.
Is this a better option than, say, trading for? We had one coach from Green Bay yesterday, but
trading for Matt
LaFleur.
I need players. I gave up 3 years of first-round picks.
Kenny,
I'm not trading for a coach.
How many draft picks do we have? We have tons of draft picks.
We got tons of other draft picks, but I'm not trading a first-round pick. I needed first-round picks. It's half the reason I'm in this argument right now is because we didn't have first-round picks.
You gave me 1,000 maybes, what ifs, who knows with Udinski. Matt LaFleur, we know he wins. I mean, he has won a boatload of games.
He gets you to the playoffs.
He's 76-40. It's one of the highest winning percentages in NFL history.
He'll get you to the playoffs. But I have one less first-round pick for him to work with as far as talent is concerned on a team that needs talent desperately.
It's very interesting to hear, and you know, we're just talking in theory, and I love this because it forces us to kind of talk about the true value of coaches. Like in the NBA, let's be honest. I mean, you could win a championship one year, you're out the next year in the NBA. Like, it just doesn't really matter. Ty Lue, you know, we all think he's a good coach, but he's had terrible years. Like, they have another coach and they can win just as many games. We do that all the time. NFL, there is a big-time value, but it's interesting that you think one more player is more valuable to an entire organization. That's not a quarterback, by the way. You're not even saying trade the pick that you would use to get the quarterback. You're saying random one offensive lineman, random one receiver.
If I didn't give up 3 years of first-rounders before, the Broncos didn't give up 3 years of first-rounders before Sean Payton.
Sure, but that's the thing. Denver, their talent pool was considered a mess, and their organization was considered a mess. Sean Payton was way more valuable than one player, two players, 3 players. But that's Sean Payton. Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel took over a mess in New England, but he's clearly more valuable than one-off player. Look at what he has totally transformed. Now, if you don't think Matt LaFleur is that guy, that's fine.
First-round pick, I don't think he's that guy.
Okay.
I think he's a fine coach. I don't think he's worth giving up a first-round pick because it's not just a one-off player. If I take a guy in the first round, no matter who it is, I intend to make an investment out of that guy. Now, obviously, there's a difference in the investment in the top 5 than it would be the back 10. I get that too. But damn it, you're taking a guy in the first round. You want to make sure that you get the 5th year out of that guy so you can have control. There's an investment that's made there. And we haven't had first-round picks for 3 years, save this last year. I got to get talent back on this football team. We're not going to have a quarterback draft this year, so now I got to find who's going to be my offensive lineman. Is it going to be CeCe Mauanoa? Where am I going to put that kid in? What am I going to do with my back-end first-round pick? Because I don't know if there's anybody. Is there going to be anybody willing to move up for my back-end first-round pick? Maybe I can get another one next year. I need talent on this team. And I think it's
also need a coach.
And once I get done talking to Grant Udinsky and some of these other guys, maybe none of them are going to be remarkable. And if that were the way, then maybe I would kick that around. But I at least want to see what's going on before we do all these other ones. 216-474-0092. Coming up next, we'll see if Daryl agrees with you. Is the job looking better or worse as time goes on? And am I just getting a little bit crazy about Udinski? Because I'm thinking, man, there's not any big star, any big name. If there's no any big star, any big name, who's got the highest ceiling?